Hello everyone, and welcome back to another music theory lesson. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Anne and I'm an online piano teacher and vocal coach. If you would like more information about one-on-one, private, personalized, tailored lessons with me, please feel free to contact me via my website down here. So today we're going to be talking about how to figure out the key of a piece. More specifically, when we see the key signature, how do we know that it's actually in the corresponding major key or if it's actually in its relative minor? We're going to go through a few examples together to learn about this topic. Now, obviously, if you're someone who has either perfect pitch or really strong relative pitch, when you look at a score of music, you can already kind of hear what it sounds like in your head. And based on that alone, you can hear whether a piece is major or minor without actually playing it. But what we're going to focus on today is actually learning how to determine whether a piece is in its major or relative minor key by looking at the elements within the score. So the first example we're going to look at is the Serenade by Schubert. So as you can see in the key signature, there is a B flat. And so automatically, a lot of you guys would think, okay, B flat, that corresponds to F major. But we can't ignore the fact that relative minors exist as well. And if you need a refresher on what relative minors are and how to determine them, you can watch this video here. The link to that video will also be in the description box below. So if you need a refresher, definitely go check out that lesson first and then come back to this video. So going back to what I was saying, there is a B flat in the key signature, which corresponds to the key of F major, and the relative minor of F major is D minor. And now we have to determine, is this piece in F major or its relative minor D minor? How can we tell? Well, if you look at the very first measure, for example, you will see that the notes form the D minor chord, which is the tonic triad of D minor. Now, this is not to say that all you have to do to figure out the key of a piece is look at the first chord. Not at all, but usually it's a pretty good indicator. Other things to look for are accidentals within the piece itself. So, for example, in measure 3, we can already see that there is a C sharp. And if we think about D minor, you should note that for each minor key, there are 3 different types of scales. Again, if you need a refresher on the different types of minor scales, this is another lesson you can check out first before coming back to this video. And the link for this video will also be in the description box below. So as I was saying, for each minor key, there are 3 different types of scales, right? In this case, it would be D minor natural, D minor melodic, and D minor harmonic. And if we think about these 3 scales, you will come to realize that the D minor harmonic scale has a C sharp because that's the raised 7th of that scale. And so the C sharp here kind of corresponds to that D minor harmonic scale. Yet another indicator that this piece is in D minor, the relative minor of F major. But if you look at this bar as well, the notes of this bar form the A major triad. And what is the relationship of A major to D minor? Well, it is the major dominant. So as you can see, from just this one line of music, we already have the very first bar indicating the tonic minor chord for us. And in the 4th bar, we have the use of the raised 7th in the harmonic minor scale. And we also have this dominant major chord of the minor key. The next example we're going to look at is a very famous piece. This is the Turkish March by Mozart. So I'm sure a lot of you have already heard this piece before, and just based on the sound, we can already tell that it's minor, but let's analyze it anyway. So in the key signature, there is nothing. And automatically, you should understand that if there's no key signature, the major key would be C major, since the scale has no flats and no sharps. The relative minor of C major is A minor. The melody and sound of the tune aside, how can we tell just based on looking at the score that it's an A minor and not C major? Well, similar to the previous example, if you look at the first full bar, so ignoring the pickup for now, if you look at the first full bar, the notes in that bar form the A minor triad, which is the tonic triad of A minor. But also, if you look at some of the accidentals here, we see F sharps and G sharps. And if you go through the 3 different types of A minor scale, so A minor natural, A minor melodic, and A minor harmonic, we will realize that in the A minor melodic scale, we have F sharp and G sharp in the ascending half, right? So again, this is to say that the accidentals used correspond to the accidentals that are used in the A minor scales. Now, obviously, not every single accidental will correspond to this because sometimes composers like to use things such as passing notes, for example. But over time and with more practice, you will be able to determine which accidentals actually indicate the key of the piece. All right, and then the last example we're going to go through together is the Hungarian Dance by Brahms. Another very, very well-known piece. Again, if you've heard the tune before, you can already hear in your head that it is minor. Now, looking at the key signature, we see 3 sharps, which corresponds to A major. So how come this piece is actually an F sharp minor? It's relative minor. How do we know? Well, very similar again to the other examples. If you look at the first 2 bars, the notes basically spell out that F sharp minor chord, which is the tonic triad of F sharp minor. In measure 3, we can see that there is an E sharp, and in the F sharp harmonic minor scale, we have that raised 7th, which is an E sharp. So once again, the accidental is corresponding to one of the minor scales. Hopefully, you're starting to get the idea. Like I said earlier, you cannot always rely on that very first chord, and that's why it's important to look at the accidentals to see if they indicate that this piece might be in the relative minor instead. Now we're gonna do a little quiz here. I'm going to show you an excerpt of a tune or a melody or something, and you're going to have to determine whether it's in the major key or the minor key. Here's the first excerpt. Here's the second excerpt. Here is the third excerpt. And finally, here is the fourth excerpt. How did you do on this quiz? Let me know in the comment section below. By the way, if you want more information and more exercises on identifying major versus minor keys in the context of looking at a piece, you can definitely check out the RCM Level 7 theory book. I'll put the link in the description box below if you guys want to practice this concept more. Now, it's not only that concept that's found in this book, but there are many other things that this book covers as well and has exercises for. So yes, keys and scales, as I mentioned, rhythm, intervals, transposition, chords and harmony, melody writing, music history, and even form and analysis. So it does cover a variety of different topics, and there's even a little practice exam at the end. So if you guys want more information and more exercises to practice, I will put the link for this book in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to drop them down in the comments section below. And if you feel like you need more personalized help, feel free to contact me on my website and inquire about one-on-one lessons with me. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.